All right, I've got proof positive that the Bible is man-made. And where do I get this proof from? The Bible itself, the King James Version. It's going to be in a place that people don't pay attention to. There's an entire book here with something on every page that you never pay attention to. And it's the numbering pattern. The numbering pattern. What is my degree in? I have the exact same degree as the authors of these stories right here. Any degree in modernity is not going to be teaching you what this pattern is. This is something that is very old. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. This gets so big that I'm just going to jump to a 3-7 numbering pattern right here. When I was a kid, I thought 3 and 7, 12, 40. Those numbers right there, I thought all the time, oh, how come everything is those? And at some point, I find what the 3-7 is. So make sure we've got all the facts on the table. The chapters and verses were not originally in the Bible, but the numbering pattern was in the Bible. We just don't know it because we don't have it memorized. You'll see as we move along here. When the books of the Bible were originally written, they did not contain chapter or verse references. The Bible was divided into chapters and verses to help us find scriptures more quickly and easily. It's much easier to find John chapter 3, verse 16 than it is to find For God So Loved the World. In a few places, chapter breaks were poorly placed. Yeah, that's it right there. And as a result, divide content that should flow together. Okay, that is purposeful. I'm going to tell you right now, that is a purposeful thing. Overall, though, the chapter and verse divisions are very helpful. The chapter divisions commonly used today were developed by Stephen Langton, an Archbishop of Canterbury. Langton put the modern chapter divisions into place in around AD 1227. The Wycliffe English Bible of 1382 was the first Bible to use this chapter pattern. Since the Wycliffe Bible, nearly all Bible translations have followed Langton's chapter divisions. All right, everybody following so far. These were written at a time when the stories were memorized. They were passed around word of mouth, and you memorized them, and you didn't have an entire pile like this. And only later, after the consolidation, at first, there still weren't chapters and verses in it, but at some point in time, society is getting to the point to where now, oh, I've got friends across the pond over there, across the ocean. We can correspond back and forth. What is your take on this? What is your take on that? So you could start finding places in here. However, if you look, there's some really goofy numbering. There's a couple of things going on that let's just get right into it, actually. I'm going to show you. This should get your attention. It got my attention. After this, I spent years on this. The first one that needs to be made note of as we get down through here, as we get to between chapter 1 and chapter 2 in Genesis, there's 2 creation stories. And one of them is a 7-day creation story, and the other one is the 5 rivers, Garden of Eden, creation of man and wife. You have 2 different creation stories with 2 different styles, but they're not put in 2 different chapters. So we've got this goofy overlap right here. This 7th day is not in chapter 1. It goes into chapter 2. Why would he do that? Do you notice something here? I said 3, 7, 12, 40. What do we have here? 7, 7, 7, said 3 times. That would be evident. If you had it memorized and you know that and you knew that, you would know that 7 was said 3 times right there, and that's what you're supposed to pay attention to. Langton knew we didn't have it memorized. He started doing things like this. I'm going to overlap that and put that last 7th right there on verse 3. That's why it's there. He wants us to see that 7-3 numbering pattern. He's trying to point it out. This is going to, you know what? When this is revealed, what you're going to find out is that the church fathers know that this is man-made and it's being used to control people. Langton knows that this is man-made. He's putting chapters and verses in a way to point to something. All right, this will get too big. The 3 and the 7 is very important. The 3 and the 7 is starting a template. There's a template right there. The 7th day and naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden are parallel. Those are 2 parallels. They mean the same thing, 7 and 3. 3 is what? Cause and effect. That's from day 3 in the first creation story, where God commanded the tree to give fruit that gives seed that provides more of the same kind of tree and the same kind of fruit. What do we have? Cause and effect right there. All of the stories are going to have cause and effect wrapped up into them, and that's what the 7-3 is. It denotes cause and effect. So that needs to be at the beginning of the story, the 7-3. There's more to it, but let's just keep it simple. I just caught an error. 7-3 means the beginning of life, and you're going to live through cause and effect. 3 means cause and effect. 7 means beginning of life. Happy, self-aware, ready to go. Then you go off and live life and start having experiences. Okay, that's going to be replicated in every Bible story. This is highly structured mythology in a religious genre. Let's go to Exodus. All right, again, King James Version only for this. Downstream versions have been watered down and hacked up so bad this is lost. Go upstream, not downstream. Okay, when we get down here, we're going to come to... Well, first of all, look at something. This is another goofy thing. Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Sentence 1, verse 1. 2, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. 3, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Right off the bat, you would say, why is he taking these names instead of putting them all in one sentence? Why would you split them up like that? Because there's concepts in here, and he's pushing the verses. He's pushing the concepts into the right verse. This needs to be 7 down here. So that had to be 2, 3, and 4 to make sure that this was 7 down here. He's spreading them around. Well, look what happens, though. If we had them memorized, we would know things that we don't know now, okay? College degrees are not going to teach you this. If you don't have it memorized to the degree that you know how often things are said, you're not going to know this. However, abundant. I'm just going to... You see, abundant is said 3 times in the entire book of Exodus. Okay? All of Exodus has abundant repeated 3 times. Look at this one. The land was. Exactly 3 times. Okay? 7:3 at the beginning of Exodus. Let's move on. And what should become apparent to you is that this would only be something that we would know if we had it memorized. You see, I have to use the computer. They didn't have to. They had it all in their head. They might have to count the story, but what did they do for their lifetimes? They built pyramids, temples, carved rocks, and they didn't go home at the end of the day and put on TV or pick up smartphones or anything like that. This was it. We get down to 7. What do we have? Yeah, and the sons of Aaron. Any questions? 3 times in the entire book of Leviticus. And it's going to appear 1 time here in verse 7 to make sure it's there. How about order? Exactly 7 times. Upon the fire. 3 times. So they've got a 7, 3, 7, 3. They doubled it up right there. Ooh la la. Yeah, Leviticus. Man-made. What's next? All right, Deuteronomy. I've got some other research going on here. Let me just get down to, here we are, Deuteronomy, King James Version. Okay, we get down into chapter 7. What do we have? It's going to be a journey that we're taking. It's a monomyth, I said, right? Turn you, that's turn inward, and take your journey. What is this? Take your journey. Lebanon. Lebanon 3 times. 7:3. Any questions? And we're going to take a journey. Yeah, turn inward and take a journey. This is a monomyth. Just bang in your face. Book of Daniel. It's in verse 3. Eunuchs. There you have it. 3:7. How about Job? Really thick. Look, he's got 7 sons and 3 daughters. 7 and 3 right in the beginning. Then you get to verse 3. He's got 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels is said 3 times. Oxen is said 3 times. This one's getting thick. We get down to 7 right here, and this is the only ones I'm too concerned with anyway. Walking. 7:3. Walking. 7:3 in Job. There's no different here. These are all made by the same school. All right, I'm jumping around a little bit. I don't have everything downloaded, but it's going to be consistent. I don't have numbers, for example, but I should because of numbers, huh? All right, Ezekiel is going to be a monomyth. Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, and the 5th day of the month. Yeah, you're going to cross a river. You're going to have a crossing of a threshold here. Well, we're going to have something fun here. They're going to double it up again. This is later on. It's getting more dense. In verse 3, we've got the hand of the Lord that is repeated 7 times. There we have it. So we've got a 3, 7. If we get down to 7, we've got something a little unusual, but it's still working. Feet, feet, feet. Feet is repeated 3 times. So that's another style instead of, well, feet itself is repeated 17 times in the entire book of Ezekiel. That's another important number. It's one of the ones we've collected. 17 comes from the flood, and if we were to look, we'd even see that Sarai's name is repeated 17 times in Genesis. 17 is going to be reappearing quite a bit. But feet, 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 right there. So we've got a 7 and a 3. All right, still jumping around a little bit. What I want to do, since I just showed that version where feet was repeated 3 times, there's precedent for that elsewhere. If we go to Jonah, we go to verse 7, what we're going to see is, and they said every is 3 times. So that covers it right there. However, they're also going to see something here. Lots, 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 lot. When you're seeing repeats like that, they're trying to get your attention. You know, when you're reading about the flood and they say, and Noah and his sons went in and Noah talked with God and Noah was, I'm just paraphrasing here. It's like they say Noah in every sentence as if you forgot who it is. They're keeping a count. Noah's name is repeated exactly 41 times, in the same way that in the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the first called hero Marduk, his name is repeated 41 times. Okay, so we've got our lot. And we've got to be careful because some of those are sackcloth. There, lot. And sackcloth is said 3 times too. Okay, 7, 3. There's still going to be another place where this shows up that'll surprise you. You know the Gospel of Thomas, Gnostic work? I'm going to tell you something. This is spread so big that this was once out of the bag. This was once being spread all over the place. The church must have desperately worked to put a clamp on it. But it's discoverable. We have verse 3 here, and what we're going to see is that fish is repeated 7 times. In the entire book. So we got a 3, 7 there. There's more in here. But we're going to get down to 7. I want to show you that precedent again. You see the lion there? Blessed is the lion which becomes man when consumed by man, and cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man. Lion is repeated 3 times there. This is how they're passing along the verbal code. You see, I put the example here from Jonah. Lots, lots, lots. Lion, lion, lion. 7, 3. Let's take a look and make sure. Lion only appears those 3 times in the entire Gospel of Thomas. So Abrahamic material is encoded, all of it. What does that tell you? And I snuck in what? The Jews didn't even start this. It's come from the Babylonians. All right, it's become so fun for me to jump around and do this and just see what is all out there that it becomes evident that something much bigger is going on than we have ever been made to believe. This is Susanna. Do you know what Susanna is? Susanna is an apocryphal work. It's a very short one. It's only 1 chapter. And what do we have? 64 verses. But what do we have down here? If we get into verse 3, daughter is repeated 7 times. There you have it in the entire book of Susanna. We get down into 7. What do we have? In verse 7, we've got husband. 3 times. There's more. Yeah, there's more in there. But you see that this is maintained. There's like a school somewhere. There's a pattern to follow. You must follow this pattern strictly. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is just a single layer and just the very beginning of that single layer. It gets much deeper. All right, the Bible, the Holy Bible's in question. I'll stick there. I just want everybody to know that it's not just the Bible. This elsewhere. Sticking with the King James Version, Ruth 3. Naomi's husband died and she was left, and her 2 sons left. 7 times. 3, 7. 3, 7. And we get down here to 7. I've already prelocated these daughters-in-law. There, 7, 3. Okay? They're even all right here. 6, 7, 8. If you had these memorized, you would know what they're doing. You would know that you don't have to say chapters and verses. You could say, you know what? I remember that story. Daughters-in-law is only said 3 times. Okay, that's why the numbering is in there, because we don't know it well enough. How well do you know the Bible? None of us know it this well. All right, I'm going to look at Jeremiah. Jeremiah is another monomyth. It's got a called hero right here in the beginning, and we're going to have a river to cross and whatnot coming up. But right now, let's just keep an eye on the 7-3. This one I don't have identified. What I want to do is show you how I identify it. Here's verse 7 right there, and I see what it says. And I'm going to look through here, and I'm going to know that something in here, a word or a phrase or a couple of words put together, are going to need to equal 3. If I was to say something like, let's see, but the Lord said unto me, say not, I am a child. Let me try that. I am a child. Two times right there, 6 and 7. But that's it, too. No, that's not what I'm looking for. It is an important one, but it's not what we're looking for. Shalt. What I'll do sometimes is find a large one, like shalt here. 82. All right, so what I'm going to do with this then is build off of it. How about shalt go? Shalt go is 4 times. That's important, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a 3. All right, whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. Command. There's 38. Okay, so as long as there's 38, I can keep adding to it. Command thee. Oh, there we have it. Bingo. Command thee is said 3 times. So we've got our 7-3 grid, and that's how I find them. You just have to go do that. You just pick out words and go, what sounds right? There's our 7-3 acknowledgement right there. All right, if we come to Ecclesiastes, I've done a lot of work here. I've got a lot of notes in here. So, okay, what we have is down in verse 3. I've got it right here. What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? What profit? 7 times. So we've got a 3-7 right there. All right, now here's an odd thing after that is that if I come down to 7, I cannot find anything that is 3. I find some that is 7. However, look at this. If I go into the next chapter, chapter 2, I'm going to come down to 7. I got me servants and maidens and had servants born in my house. Born. 3 times. 7-3 here in chapter 2, which is strange, but they are maintaining it. Of course, it looks like it could be 3. It could be a 7 on verse 3, or it's typically a 3 in verse 7. And then sometimes it's both of them. But there's always going to be a 7-3 acknowledgement in the front, one of the first lines, either the 3rd or the 7th, typically. Okay, we can keep doing that through the Old Testament, but honestly, this is, if I went through all of it, everything I've found, it would take us years. I need to shorten the video. Okay, so let's go to the New Testament. First, what I'm going to say is that the numbers that we're looking for cross-reference each other. Let me take a quick stab at something in Genesis, and then I'm going to go to the book of Matthew and some other New Testament stuff, and we're going to see this there. And again, I can't spend a lot of time on this. It's going to get too big. But this entire, you see the chapter 5 here, there is what is called a lineage. It's Adam's lineage, and it has all those goofy things in there, the 900 years, the 800 years, etc. And this is an analog farm. This is a code piece. Do you know what else is? We get down to chapter 11. These are the generations of Shem. We're going to find that they're decremented numbers, 500, 400, 400, 200. So they're lower numbers than the other one. This is another analog farm, and it's put in a specific location, which in a myth, which means time goes by. Time continues to pass. All right, so there's another one there. And then there's a final one. We get down here into this funny conversation that Abraham is having with God about the destruction of the righteous in Sodom. And if you look here, you're going to see righteous, 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 righteous. If you read it, I swear, I read this, it sounds like Dr. Seuss. Would you destroy it for 50 if there are 50 righteous within? No, I would not destroy it for 50. No, I would not, Abraham. It doesn't quite sound that way. If you look, though, with the righteous being repeated there, what the hell? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That word being repeated 7 times means this is an analog farm, and you grab these up. 50, 50, 50, 50, 40, 40, 30. Okay, using that same technique, you would come up here to say this analog farm and say, there's a 30, there's a 7, there's a 12, there's a 15. Those numbers sound familiar. The front doesn't. 900, 800, what the heck are those? Watch what happens. 900. 7 times. It's being used as a surrogate. 800. 7 times. It's being used as a surrogate. You are to gather up the number that goes with it. These are code. And I don't mean that they repeat in the chapters and the verses. They're not numerical. They're spelled out. Okay. 3, 7, 12. Let's go to Matthew. What I'm going to do first with Matthew is show you another layer to the grid. What we're going to do here is I'm going to search for the word 3. I'm interested in 3s. 3 is repeated in the book of Matthew 12 times, so they cross-reference each other, the 3 and the 3 and the 12. What happens if I do the 7? It repeats exactly 12 times. 7, 7th. If I 12. 12 is repeated exactly 12 times. Okay, are you seeing that there is like a grid? It's hard to see this because it's supposed to be done mentally. It's hard. You can't really draw a picture of it. You have to understand it conceptually in the mind. Okay, so there's a matrix of numbering patterns going on there, but let's go back and look at what we were originally looking at, the 3-7 grid there. As I go to Matthew, there's something that's different about it. Matthew is a monomyth. Matthew is a monomyth, except that right in the beginning in chapter 1, there is a lineage. Now, there's a lot of important stuff there in the lineage, but the actual calling doesn't start until chapter 2. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the day of Herod the king, Jesus is a monomyth hero. And let's see what we get down here. As we get into verse 3, into 7, what we have is diligently. There we have it 3 times. We've got our 7-3. What is this telling us? We saw it in the Old Testament. Just a little hint of it at Babylonian works. At another video, more work to be done on that. It's too big. But we're seeing it very well established in Old Testament, and it looks like it's showing up in the New Testament. Let's keep looking. All right, Gospel of Mark. Mark is the earliest of the 3 Gospels, and people wonder, is this copied off of a Q source? This is a monomyth. You cannot look in the world and not find this. You're going to find it in Hinduism, in Chinese material, Buddhist material, everybody's material that is monomyth. Greek, all of it. In fact, here, let me just do a quick parallel look at some monomyths. Jesus is called as the Son of God, has supernatural powers, travels with hand-picked disciples, and seeks the kingdom of heaven within. Every called hero is going to be following a similar pattern. Jason is called as the rightful ruler, has Hera for supernatural powers, travels with the Argonauts, and seeks the golden fleece. King Arthur is called as the only one who could extract Excalibur, has Merlin for supernatural powers, travels with hand-picked knights, and seeks the Holy Grail. George Lucas used Joseph Campbell's template for the first Star Wars trilogy. Luke is called as the son of Vader, has the Force for supernatural powers, travels with special selected rebels, and seeks to save the Alliance. Notice they all feature a doubter or a problem in their midst of travelers. Judas, Lancelot, C-3PO, Acostus, son of Pelias. There's always somebody that's kind of a troublemaker, a doubter, somebody that doesn't have it figured out is a part of that group. That means Jesus is an idol-worshipped monomyth character. Might as well worship Zeus and await the return of Jason. All right, Luke, this one's very clever. The analogs actually emerge a little bit easier in the New Testament. It's easier to interpret. The numbering code is not the interpretation. That's just a part of it. It helps with the interpretation. Okay, Luke, King James Version again, we get down to 7, and what do we have? And they had no child because Elizabeth was barren, and they were both now well stricken in years. Elizabeth, barren. Female, devoid of. Before first sin, barren. 3 times. 7:3, maintained in the Gospels. John 7, the same came. 3 times. 7:3. You see, they're purposefully choosing verbiage and making sure it only appears a certain amount of times. And you know what? They are doing it with all of the nouns and verbs. Like I said, this is just tip of the iceberg. That's why nobody can find it. It's too deep. All right, Galatians 3, verse 3. Grace. 7 times. And down here in 7, we're going to find trouble. There we have it. So 3:7. Let's pick on the big boy. This is the one that everybody thinks, yeah, the rapture's coming any day now, any day now. Yeah, you know what you guys are waiting on? You're going to be waiting till you die. That's what you're going to be doing. All right. Revelation 3, verse 3, blessed. Seven times right there. 3, 7. There's the acknowledgement. We get down to 7. What do we find? There's a number of things, but I've got it even so identified down here. 7:3. Yeah. Whew. It's a monomyth. All right, I'm going to end the video just because it gets too long and people can't follow what's going on. They just watch and go, I have no idea what you're talking about there, buddy. And I've reached out to, the more intelligent atheists trying to convey something to people, and they don't want anything to do with me. Nothing at all. It's like, buddy, you don't have a degree. You got nothing to say. You don't know anything. Meanwhile, you're working with the same material that's been around for 6,000 years. What college did they go to? Yeah. All right. So this material is not something you learn about in school. You can learn about the love of Jesus and all of that if you want to. But if you want to learn that Jesus is a common monomyth character, you're not going to learn that in college. You will not. If you want him to be your savior, that's what they're going to teach you. And if you realize he isn't, that's an atheist. If you realize he's a monomyth hero, now you're one of the few chosen. Now you can enter the narrow gate and utilize the material. But in the meantime, this numbering pattern right here, to me, clearly indicates that this is man-made, and it's very structured. What is in the background is what is important with these numbers. What's in the foreground? Yeah, theist and atheist, it doesn't mean anything to you. Nothing at all. But if you want to know that the Bible is man-made, you'll learn this and go, oh yeah. Not only is it man-made, but they didn't even invent the numbering pattern. All right, I'm going to end this video. I'll go ahead and I'm going to try to name a few channels in here, hoping that somebody will look at it and take some kind of interest. What I did here is so small. It's such a tiny tip of the iceberg. I've been working on this for years, and I think that's why people can't get into it and why it's so protected. It's just complicated and it takes too much time, and people's attention spans today they're not there. They can't focus on things very long. All right. Yeah, that's it for this video.